Asher, Colombia to Uruguay. So now, once again, Colombia, Brazil, Peru, Bolivia, Paraguay, Uruguay, Venezuela, so on and so forth. It says, out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. When you go and you look at where all the cocoa is coming from, all the resources, all these different fruits, all of it comes from these lands, you understand? Like, they have an incredibly, you understand, rich, fertile soil and all that. And this is supposed to be what? The lands we would be in the last days. Next slide. Now, here's something else that I want you to do. Don't get caught up in so much of these borders that you see today, because realistically, all of this belonged to Asher. All of this belonged to Asher because this was the Incan Empire. The Incan Empire was, the capital was in Peru, and then it stretched all the way on down into the tips of Chile and into Bolivia. And then these people migrated and went over into all these different lands. Next slide. So now, actually, the Indians did appear to keep certain parts of laws in certain area. The Incas. So if we're talking about the Incas right now, we're talking about the tribe of Asher. The Incas held a festival in March similar to the Passover. The Yucatan Indians practiced circumcisions. Mexicans and Indians had eternal altar fires. If you know anything about the temple, we had fires that would never go out for our sacrifices. And they want to say we can't have a fire on the Sabbath. Smoking crack. So now it says the eternal altar fire. Some Nicaraguans. So now this is why I went in this order, because you're going to start to see. They compare Mexico down with the Incas all the way on back to Central America. You understand? Would not allow women who had recently given birth into the temples. Why? Because if a woman gave birth, she was unclean for 30 to 90 days, depending on the gender of the child. So other parts of the law observed at various places who says that men should not sleep with women who had recently given birth. Once again, that's another part of our customs. You can't sleep with a woman who's unclean. If a man slept with a slave, both were whipped. Adulteresses were to be stoned. That is Old Testament. You understand? So now, and it says, and a widow must marry her nearest male relative. This is the same thing that they were doing in the Caribbean. They were keeping the law of the kinsman. Next slide. Matter of fact, go back. Salakia. Oh, good shot. How could I forget? It says the Indians did retain a few Hebrew words, such as the Yucatan, Mexico, and Peru. When you go and you look, this is all bastardizations of what the Spanish would call it. Just like, for example, aparia. Paria is fruitful. Paru, paria, fruitful, fertile. These are all the things we named all these lands. Same thing with Brazil. Brazil comes from Barzal because of all the metals that they got there. Barzal is iron.
That's right.
Next slide. So now, I shall speak on somewhat the scores of the diverse opinions which have been taught and declared in what countries is thought the 10 tribes are. Hispaniola, Dominican Republic, the island of Cuba, the continent of America, Panama, New Spain, which is Mexico, and Peru. Like, how many writers do you need? How many sources? How many artifacts that they're all saying the same thing about our people? Next slide. Like the Jews, the Indians offer their first fruits. They keep their new moons and feast. Now, once again, you're starting to see a pattern here. What they do in the Caribbean, they do in South America. What they do in South America, they do in North America. If you prove it for one, you prove it for all. They did these comparative studies on the Caribbean and with South America. That's why these writers and explorers who were going all over, this is what they were finding. So now, once again, these are all the different writers of Peruvian antiquities and what they were doing. So now, in some parts of North America, circumcision is practiced. There is also much analogy between the Hebrews and the Indians, that which concerns various rites and customs, such as ceremonies of purification, the use of bath, fasting, and the manner of prayer. The Indians likewise abstained from the blood of animals. You starting to see that everywhere we did this? Next slide. What's that right there? It's the Star of Moloch. Listen, man, we rocked the Shield of David throughout all our generations. This is an artifact that was taken from Peru to a museum out in Seville, Spain. Matter of fact, man, Officer Zaka War sent me this information out of New York, man. You understand? We're really New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey. That's my man, 50 grand right there. He helped me with some of this research. And he sent me this shield. This was a bowl that they made. You understand? Next slide. And another one right here, we start to find, this also came out of Peru. You find the Shield of David all throughout South America, North America, all over the Gadites, among the Seminole Indians. And a lot of these artifacts were destroyed. Matter of fact, there used to be, I don't know if y'all know what earth mounds are. Earth mounds or earthworks is when they make designs out of the ground. Well, they made these designs out of the ground. In Peru, there was a giant Shield of David that you were able to see from Google Earth, and they had an image of it if you searched it. I can't find it anywhere now. They had Shield of Davids carved into the mountains in Nicaragua. Can't find any of it now. So, like, let me tell y'all something. If y'all find an artifact, if y'all find something online, rip it off the internet immediately, because you don't know how much longer it's going to be there, because this information doesn't stay up long. Next slide.